Hi, welcome to this early summer seasonal yin practice. For this practice, you are going to need a little bit of equipment. Yin does require some support. I will try and show you some variations through the practice where you can do it with a little bit less equipment. If you are going to be practicing yin longer term, then I really would recommend getting a bolster. Bolsters are really, really good bit of equipment, and I'll put in an email out where I use and what I buy just to help you. You're going to need maybe some blocks, books would do, or a box or something like that to support yourself, and a couple of cushions off the sofa are also a good, helpful addition. And a yoga strap or one of those elastics is good as well for some work we're going to do into the shoulders. So we're going to work with the meridians associated with early summer. They're located in the arms. In fact, all the summer meridians are located in the arms. But these particular meridians, the pericardium, which is centered to the arms, right down the center of the arm to the middle finger. And it starts on the side of the chest and it comes up and over and through the center of the upper arm, all the way through the center of the elbow, all the way down through the center of the wrist to the middle finger. A couple of points of interest is the Laogong point right in the center of the palm, and also maybe the wrist as well. There's a couple of points along the wrist. Take my watch off to make it a little bit easier. About 3 finger width distance up from the crease of the wrist. There's a point here. So sometimes you can hold right in the center between the tendons. Sometimes you can hold these points in the poses themselves, which can be quite a nice energetic response. Really good, the pericardium, a really good meridian for bringing about emotional calm and stability and quiet. The paired or linked meridian is the triple heater, which comes from the second finger, the ring finger. It comes up the back of the arm, on the outside of the arm, to the elbow, comes up the back of the arm to the shoulder. It's along the back of the shoulder to the neck. It comes around to the ear, comes closely around the ear to the front of the ear, and then it comes across to the edge of the eyebrow. So again, these points here are quite nice. You might be able to apply a little bit of pressure, but we're also going to move the head and neck so we get a feeling of stretch into the meridian all the way around the sort of shoulder and head area. The triple pita is a little bit more of a nebulous meridian. We don't have an organ associated with it in the West. But if you think about it as sort of 3 areas of the body, we call them the 3 burners, the sort of pelvic area, the sort of central solar plexus abdominal area, and the chest area. And it's linked to energy, it's linked to the immune system, it's linked to vitality, it's linked to all the major organs. There's an association. Can be good for controlling heat in the body as well, which can be useful, especially if you've got fever or if you're going through menopause. And it's actually a really lovely meridian to work with. So up the back of the arm, into the shoulder, around the ear, to the outside of the eyebrow. So we're going to start in this Baddha Konasana. You're going to bring your feet together. I'm going to let the knees fall out to the side. So we should call this a butterfly pose, but we're going to support the back of the body. So bum is on the floor, and we're going to let the back rest down. You can see how I've supported the bolster on a couple of blocks. And I'm actually going to use a blanket in this as well. This is completely optional, the blanket thing. It's just quite a nice tool to draw the feet in a little bit closer. So I've made a soft blanket roll to hook around the ankles. You could use a strap for this. And bringing the feet in, I'm going to pull on the strap to do that, lift the hips, and then pin the 2 ends of the blanket underneath the hips. And this just supports the knees and gives them a sense of anchoring. The arms then can come out by the side of you and rest, and the head rests. So just watch the head. If the head is dropping back, you might need to put another blanket or something underneath the head. And we're trying to get a position where the arms are extended out to the sides and this feeling of stretch all the way through the meridians of the arms. So for those of you who have the setup, if you go ahead and get into it, I'm going to show you a variation if you haven't got a bolster. Okay, so if you haven't got the luxury of a bolster, you can do a similar pose with a blanket. I'm going to bring a folded blanket in just to elevate the chest a little bit. I'm going to use my 2 cushions for my knees. So coming in, I'm going to put my timer on now as well. Coming in and just wriggling along so that the tips of your shoulder blades are just touching a folded blanket. And this will sort of elevate the ribs a little bit and just allow the chest to be open. And I can take my arms then out to the sides and feel a sense of opening all the way across the front of the chest. And all you're going to do when you've set up your pose, whether it's the elevated butterfly leaning back onto the bolster or whether you're lying down on the ground, you could even do this without a blanket. You're just not going to get that particularly large stretch across the front of the chest. And then just breathe in and out slowly. Just tuning into the breath, noticing the breath. So as we take this practice, I'll come up out of the pose earlier than you. So whilst I keep talking and you're in the poses, if you stay in the poses, we'll hold some of the poses for up to 5 minutes and some of them a little bit less, in order to get the benefits of working with the fascia, the connective tissue of the body. Both these meridians are really strongly associated with fascia. The pericardium is the connective tissue or fascial sac around the heart. And these 3 compartments, the triple are associated with connective tissue or fascia within the body, sort of separating the organs and the regions of the body. So once you've tuned into the breath, just become aware of the rise and fall of the belly. Getting a nice stretch into the inner thigh region. There are a few muscles that are associated with these meridians, the adductors in the inner thighs. So from the sort of pubic bone region all the way down the inner thighs, just above the knee. There's one, the gracilis, which comes over the knee joint and attaches onto the top of the tibia bone, which we'll also be working with. So just breathe in and out slowly, becoming aware of the gentle stretch all the way down through the front of the chest, across the pectoral muscles. You can trace that meridian, the pericardium, from the outside edge of the chest, quite close to the nipple, up and over the front of the shoulder, down the inside, the center of the arm, through the joint of the elbow central, down through the center of the forearm, actually between the bones of the forearm. You can linger your awareness around just above the wrist, and then through the wrist onto the palm, right in the center of the palm. So if you bring your middle finger and you curl it around and press it into the palm, you find that point. And then just uncurl the fingers and allow gum point, a point of calm, a place to release anxiety. So just breathe in a sense of feeling open-minded, emotionally stable. Let go of any vulnerability, maybe feeling burdened by the world events, or any tension that you might have in the body. As you gently creep into the poses, you might become aware of a little bit of tension. And just allow your mind to linger in that area and soften that tension with your breath. So I'm beginning to feel it a little bit through my inner thighs. By having the knees supported, this is helpful. So if you find it uncomfortable, just release the legs, either extend them or bring the knees together and take the feet wide. So remember, in Yin, we're holding the postures for time, but we're trying not to move into sensational feeling. We're trying to work with sensation in the body. And a feeling of gentle creep or stretch. So every now and again I will be looking at my watch. So to come out of it with the legs first, just bring your hands down to help lift your legs so that the knees touch, and take the feet wide. And just so you have your legs outward rotated, and you're going to have your hips inward rotated. And just take a few breaths, and maybe just rest the hands on the belly. If you have that, if you're in the supported variation of this, using the bolster, then just keep the arms where they are, or maybe bring them in by the side of your palms down. And just take a moment just to notice. It's quite nice after you've been in the pose just to linger a little bit to see if there's been any effect, any echo or feeling of rebound after the pose. And then if you're on the bolster, just coming onto your side. And if you're lying down, just coming onto your side. Just spending a moment and then pushing yourself back up onto seated. And between the poses, the choice really is yours on what you do as counter pose. So I'm just going to take a few cat-cows, just to release and just move back into a child's pose, just briefly. The next pose we're going to move into is pigeon, but I'm going to show you a variation as well, lying down. So I'm going to start with the easier variation. So if you have a bolster, bring the bolster in. Let's do it this way around. So there's two ways of doing this. Working into the hips again. Bring the bolster in underneath. If you have it, you can do this without. So you could use a book or something quite happily. And we're going to take the left leg and hook it over the right. So I'm just hooking, you can see just hooking the ankle just above the knee and letting the knee fall out. You can stay with this. You can apply a little bit of pressure onto this inner left hip, or you could lift the foot up onto support and focus a little bit more. So we're trying to feel the stretch into the buttock. So this is one variation. This is really good for anyone who has any knee issues. I'm going to also come into this from all fours. I'm going to slide the left leg forward so that the knee comes towards the left hand. Heel walks in towards the center of the body. I'm going to show you this straight on as well. And you tuck the toes under the back leg and walk it back. This is where a cushion or a block is quite useful. Maybe bringing something in underneath that buttock or hip. If you have a block, you could use a block for a bit of support. Sometimes people find it quite helpful to have the support underneath the straight leg. So bringing in a blanket, I've put a cushion in here underneath the straight leg. I'm going to stay for a few breaths in a lifted variation, and then if you're in pigeon, we're going to lower. So if you're lying on your back, you could have the one foot on the floor, and then you could lift up onto the bolster. From forwards, you can see how my knee is moved out to the side and the heel is in towards the center of the body. So just be aware of this knee. If there's any discomfort on this knee, then please come out of the pose and take the variation lying on your back. So we're staying lifted, and then we're going to lower. So we'll stay lifted for about a minute. And in the lifted variation, we're really opening into the front of the chest. And we're trying to sort of maneuver a little bit into the pose so that we get this feeling into the sort of glute piriformis area of this buttock. So sometimes it takes a little bit of shuffling around to get the leg in the position that allows us to feel the stretch into that buttock. And it's not always the same for everybody. So you might have your knee slightly more pointing forward in order to feel it more into that buttock. And let the chest be open. Connect to the breath. So the breath wants to be a nice, even rhythm. Breathing in and out slowly. Relaxing the shoulders. So I'm going to lower down now into a sort of sleeping version of the pose, a resting version. So you might be able to rest into the point on the meridian at the edge of the eyebrow, which is the end. So you might be able to hold that point. You might prefer to come and rest the forehead on the back of the hands. So seeing which one of those feels doable. If you're resting the fingers into the temples, then place the index finger into the sort of hollow at the edge of the eye, and then rest the middle finger into the end of the eyebrow. You're then capturing a gallbladder point start, and you're also capturing the triple heater. It's quite nice to do both points. And just allow the body to rest in this pose. Experience in this feeling of stretch into the buttock, the glutes, the piriformis. Muscles that are linked to the meridians that we're working with. And just experience the sense of length through the extended leg. So all the way down through the hip, through the front of the thigh. The breath is smooth and even. Working with these meridians, we're working on emotional stability, emotional calm. So as you stay in this sleeping swan or dead pigeon pose, or if you're in the variation on your back, if you can breathe in a sense of calm and relaxation, sense of tranquility, letting go of any anxiety, maybe being overprotected or oversensitive to the situation that we find ourselves in. And as we stay for time, we begin to experience the sensation with a little bit more intensity. So I'm really beginning to feel that stretch now into the glute area of that left leg. So we're just going to hold this for about 4 minutes. Just going to hold this for a couple more breaths. So if you're watching this as a recording, you can actually pause and maybe hold it up to 5 minutes if it feels beneficial. So if not, we're stopping at 4. To come out of it, just release. If you're resting your head on your hands or holding the meridian points, then just lifting up gently. Moving back into that almost feels like a back bend. And then to come out of it, tucking the toes under the back leg, either just to release the bent leg, open and close it. You could take a down dog in this shape. And then just sink back and just again notice the pose. Just rest, child's pose. If you're on your back, you could just let the arms stretch out. You could let the legs stretch out. And just completely give in before we move on to the other side. So coming on up. So if you're on your back, remember, just a brief reminder, hooking that right ankle just above the left knee, just pressing gently on this inner right thigh. You could exaggerate the feeling by lifting the foot onto a support and doing this. If you're in all fours, bringing the right leg through this time, remembering you might need, so this side might not be the same as the other side, so it's not on me, so I definitely want something underneath that hip. So bringing a couple of things in just to give me a little bit of support, which will give me in turn a little bit of space. I'm also going to bring something in with a straight leg, just a cushion under the thigh, which will just lift that thigh a little bit more. I'm going to start just staying up in a raised variation. So the knee is over towards the right a little bit, heel is in towards the center. There is no discomfort in the knee, so please do take the variation line down if you're experiencing any discomfort in the knee. Remember these poses, because we're staying for time, it's important that you set it up in a way that, although it's not completely comfortable, that's not the right word, but it's the tension that you're experiencing is all doable tension. It's not tension that you know is causing you any harm. And what we're after is a feeling of creep into these poses. So keeping the chest open. We're just going to do about a minute here in this raised variation. Gives a little bit of stimulation to the kidney area in the lower back, which is always good. Kidneys are a linked organ for the triple heater. To do with Jing, to do with energy in the body. And then after a minute, lowering down. So either coming all the way down and maybe resting the forehead on the back of the hands, or the variation that I've been doing where I take the index finger and press it into the hollow at the outside edge of the eyes, and just resting the middle finger into the end of the eyebrow. So a really good point for just helping to quieten the mind, but also release any tension that you might experience around the eyes, any eye pain, maybe from staring at too many screens for too long. And make sure that you're feeling the sensation into the buttock of this bent leg. Become aware of the breath. Notice the breath moving in the body. We're trying to seek out stillness in these poses. So we come to a shape where we can stay, so we know we can stay. And then we seek out the stillness. The stillness helps to quieten the mind. It helps to remove the thinking process. And instead we give ourselves something to think about. So breathing in some imbalanced qualities for these organs and meridians, and for the fire element, working with the fire element from traditional Chinese medicine. So breathing in tranquility, which really supports the heart, the emotions of the heart. Breathing in a feeling of relaxation, of calmness. And then let go of the opposite. Maybe let go of being oversensitive. Maybe let go of anxiety. The pericardium is the organ that protects the heart. So let go of feeling overprotected, or having a feeling of being protected towards others. As you stay in the pose, you begin to experience a stretch a little bit more deeply. So just taking the last couple of breaths here. Remember, if you feel any pins and needles or loss of sensation, then they're sensations to really observe and to come out of the pose. So this is your final breath here. Very gently coming on up. Just opening the front. If you're lying on your back, just extending the legs over the bolster or along the ground. From here, either just extending the leg out behind you. It's quite jumbled with yin, you get a lot of equipment. Maybe open and closing the leg, or taking it into a down dog and opening and closing the leg. the leg. And then just coming and resting in child's pose. Just taking a moment just to notice. Just like a sort of feeling of a rebound or an echo, or a feeling that's left in the body after a pose, maybe a little bit of stiffness. Then come on up and maybe take a few cat-cows, just lifting the spine. So we're going to come into a lunge next. So for the lunge, again, you might need some props, some supports. I'm going to bring my bolster and have it. If you don't have a bolster, you could use a couple of books for this. So I'll show you with bricks as well. And also the back knee, let's put a little bit of padding underneath the back knee. So either a cushion or a blanket. So I'm going to step through the left leg. So you can see I'm supporting the knee there. And I've got the bolster here for my hands. I'm going to make this a little bit of a twisted shape as well. So I'll show you that from both sides, both directions. So to begin with, just coming into straight variation, the bent leg, so even with knees that aren't very happy, this should be doable. So it might just get a little bit tiring on the wrist. So the knee stays centered over the ankle and the wrists are directly under the shoulders to begin with. Back leg needs to be reasonably far back so you get a feeling of stretch. And I'm actually going to take my kneecap off the front edge of the blanket so that the kneecap is sort of floating a little bit in the air. And then in this position, you find that stillness. So we'll start off here, and then I'm going to take it into a slightly twisted shape. So sometimes I do a sort of two-pronged effect with these poses. We start with one variation, and then we just change it slightly. So I'm going to maneuver, turn around so that you can see me a little bit easier in a minute, but you stay where you are when you come into the second variation. So just doing a minute in this first place, and just see if you can allow the weight of the body to come down. So we'll be getting a feeling of stretch through the psoas, which is that strong hip flexor. Isn't a linked muscle for these meridians, but it's a really good one to stretch for any lower back discomfort. And then we're going to lift up a little bit, and I'm going to move my support over a little bit to the side and twist it a little bit. So I'm going to let this knee fall out to the side and come to rest on the outside edge of the foot. So I'm going to turn around and show you this from the other side. And I'm also going to show you with blocks so you can see what's happening. I've taken my knee support away for the moment. I'm moving this a little bit over. Still got my knee centered, but I'm going to let the knee fall out a little bit. And then I'm turning a little bit away from the direction of that knee. So if I didn't have the bolster, I could use a couple of bricks or books, something just to keep me a little bit higher up. So straight on, you can see how the knee's falling out, and I'm just on the outside edge of the foot a little bit, and I'm just turning. So I'm trying to get into opening the leg out to the side. Breathing, and a little bit of movement away from the leg with the body as I breathe. So take this back to my original position. You stay where you are. I'm just bringing a little pillow for my knee. And just breathing gently. So in this dragon lunge, a sort of feeling of adventure, feeling of sort of optimism and excitement. Try to let go of any hardness or awkwardness or feeling overcautious. I'm just going to hold this for a little bit longer. Just seeking out that stillness. If you get tired on the wrist, then you could always come back to the center and maybe lower down off the wrist onto a support. So changing it again, but keeping this leg dropping out to the side still. That's a variation that you could take. And feeling a nice opening through the inner thigh. A feeling of opening into the groin area. Okay, so just another couple of breaths. Just let the breath move in and out smoothly. Remember, the longer you stay, the more that sensation of moving downwards, gravity, takes effect. Good, last breath. And then very gently come back onto the sole of the foot. You could draw back into a hurdler stretch for a moment. Come forwards. Release the leg. Again, maybe open and close the leg. Just come down, child's pose. Just notice the effect. Which leg, which hip. Just breathing gently in and out. And then any little movements that you think you need to make, maybe a little sort of sway of the hips and the shoulders and the head before we move into the other side. So bringing in your supports, some padding for your back knee. You could use your blanket, you could use your cushion. Stepping up with the right leg this time. Do it from this side in this direction. First of all, having the support straight, and just restart the clock. Give you a little bit of time to get into it. The knee is centered over the ankle, so I'm just sliding that back leg back a little bit more so that I get enough of a feeling. I want to get a slope on this back leg, so I get a feeling of stretch through that back leg. Come onto there. Or stay on the sole of the front foot to begin with. As you breathe slowly, you'll be feeling it through the front of the extended leg and into the hip of the bent leg. Tuning into the breathing, coming in and out slowly. Good. Then taking the front foot and just coming onto the outside edge of it a little bit, letting the knee fall out to the side. You've got your blocks or bolster, moving them a little bit across, so you're just moving the body slightly away from the leg. Okay. So again, I'll show you this from straight on. So I'm just coming onto the outside edge of the foot slightly and turning ever so slightly away from that leg. So just feeling this lovely sort of sense of opening into the thigh, the inner thigh. And just very gently turning. So it's not as strong, it's not like a sort of spring rotation. And just releasing down. Remember, if it gets too intense for the wrist, you could center it and you could come down onto the forearms. A slightly different pose, but still a dragon lunge. So we're staying high and a little bit twisted. Just let the head be relaxed. Let go of any feeling of being overcautious. Maybe any awkwardness or hardness that you feel. And just breathe in that sense of adventure, that sense of excitement, but not excitability. So working with the element of fire. And fire brings with it many attributes. It should bring a feeling of sociability, of excitement, of interacting with others. But because we're all isolated in lockdown, then obviously that isn't an easy thing to become aware of. Just breathing in these qualities to really try to support our emotions at this time. You might be feeling it through the wrists. You might have to come onto fists just for the last breaths. Or maybe even lowering down onto your forearms. Just see if you can allow that creep to happen. Making this the last 2 breaths. And then very gently lifting and drawing out, maybe taking a little bit of a hurdler stretch on the way back out. Releasing the leg. Open and close. Stretch that leg. Maybe moving back into a child's pose. Resting the hips back. Just noticing the rebound, the echo. Maybe coming up, taking a cat-cow. A little bit of movement through the spine. Okay, so we're going to do some work into the upper body. So we're going to sit back onto our heels. So if this isn't possible, then several options. You might need to bring something in for the feet, to cushion the feet. And you might need to bring something in, have your strap handy as well, something in for the hips. Sometimes it needs to be something even bigger, so if you've got a bolster, you might even need to sit on that. So it just depends on the amount of stretch that you can put up with through the front of your legs. Just coming to a position where you feel you can stay. And obviously if this is too much, then you can just focus on the shoulders, and you can do this just with the legs out straight. So I'm just going to bring cushion in, just to make it a little bit more comfortable. So remember, if it gets too much for the tops of the feet, then you can release them at any time. So we're going to work into the shoulders. We're going to work into eagle arms. So eagle arms is great because it really helps to mobilize the shoulders and gets into these meridians. So I'm going to put my timer on now because it's hard when I have to pose. So we're going to take the left arm over the right and give ourselves a hug. Then we're going to keep the arms crossed. So there's an option here to just keep this right arm hooked onto the left and keep the shoulder drawn across the body. I'll show you straight on as well. If you can cross at the elbows, you might be able to bring the backs of the arms together and then even the palms together. If that's too much, sometimes you can link a finger and a thumb. But we want this feeling of stretch all the way across the front, the back, sorry, of the shoulders. So where this triple theta meridian travels, just on the rear side of the shoulder, quite along the top of the trapezius muscle. And then maybe the elbows can go up. So if I show you this from straight on, you can see elbows are lifted, hands are lifted, legs are extended. And just very gently lifting the elbows a little bit higher, and also taking the hands a little bit away from the face. You sort of just play a little bit. So it's fine to move the body a little bit. You don't have to be completely static. Some of the poses you actually get more benefit just from a little bit of gentle movement, feeling the stretch. Just think about the meridians in the arms. So think about that coming down from the ring finger of the left arm, down through the center of the back of the wrist, down through the center of the back of the arm, the sort of outer edge of the upper arm, and to the outside of the shoulder. Come along the back of the shoulder and to the neck, and then just tipping the head a little bit away from that left shoulder. Trace up the neck, but just beneath the ear, where the sort of ear joins the jaw. Trace around the ear, and I'm just moving my head a little bit away from the shoulder. Come around the ear to where the ear joins the head, to the top of the ear. And then across to the eyebrow that we held. So just working with these arm movements for about 2 minutes, a little bit briefer, because the smaller muscles and they're just harder to hold. So feeling very self-assured and confident. Just take this last breath here and then release. Oh, it's always a relief, a feeling of energy moving through the body. I'm just going to bring the arms out to the side and just push the palms to the side. And then take it the other way. In fact, just rest for a moment before we do the other side. Just take a moment closing the eyes. And just be aware of the whole of that left arm that was on top. And take the right arm over. It's quite nice to reach for the shoulder blades first. Then you can get the maximum crossing that you can. The bottom arm is hooked, and that might be enough. So you can let go of the right arm and you can just encourage the stretch. So it'll be a slightly different stretch. That's fine. If you can come into eagle, backs of the hands come together, maybe the palms come together, and you lift the elbows a little bit higher. So you really accentuate the feeling of stretch across the top of the shoulders, the back of the shoulders, as you breathe. And then we're coming into the awareness of the triple heater in that right arm now. So just checking my time to make sure we don't stay here for too long. So coming down from that ring finger of the right arm, down through the center of the back of the wrist. So there's a point, about 3 finger widths just above the wrist crease, which is an important point. It can link back up to shoulder pain, arm pain. It's also good for your immune system, for preventing the sort of pernicious influences from entering the body. So helping to prevent viruses from coming in. So that's just beneath the wrist, at 3 finger widths below. And then come down through the back of the arm to the elbow, and up the outside edge of the upper arm to the shoulder. And then across the top of the shoulder. And then just tipping the head, so tipping my left ear towards my left shoulder to take the right ear a little bit further away from the right shoulder, and coming up the side of the neck to the jaw. That's where the ear joins the head at the bottom. Then around the ear, quite close to the ear, to where the ear joins the head. And then across from the ear to the eyebrow. Just breathing into that stretch all the way along that meridian line. Just breathing slowly. Letting go of any lack of confidence, being disorganized. Breathing in a feeling of being self-assured, confident, organized. Good. And then gently release. Feel the release of energy through the body. Push the palms away. And then let the arms come down. And just struggle the shoulders a little bit. Just release. So before we come out, just tuck the toes under, release through the ankles. And just sit back onto the heels. Just stretch through the soles of the feet for a moment. Just be aware of the feet as you stretch into them. maybe even lifting the feet and just circling the feet one way then the other way. Okay, good. And then bring the legs around. So you're going to stay sitting on the support. So we're going to do Gamakasana to the shoulders, so another shoulder stretch. So this is the one where we need the elastic to help us. So the legs with Gamakasana can be quite challenging. So a few options. We're going to start with left leg crossed over right. And right heel kicked in towards left buttock and the top leg sliding down. But that is quite strong. So right leg can extend and left leg can cross over. And you can stay with that, that's fine. You don't need to go any deeper than that. Okay, a variation that can be quite nice is to bend the left leg and slide the right leg underneath and walk that left leg back in. I like to then pop that left leg over the right, trying to feel the sensation through the buttocks, and then maybe slide that left leg on top of the right. So again, we're still feeling the sensation stretch into this hip. Okay, so remember, bottom leg can be released and you can work a little bit into the hip, but mostly we'll be working into the shoulders. Okay, so coming to work with the arms. So I'll show you from the side to begin with. Sometimes lifting the hips just gets the legs a little bit closer together. So left leg on top, so I start with the right arm, so take the strap into the right arm, take the arm up towards the ceiling, and then bend at the elbow and drop the hand into the middle of the back. Take your left hand then and just encourage the stretch through the right side of the body, the right shoulder. And then bring that left arm around, palm faces behind you, bend at the elbow, slide in to find the strap. So you can see in this one quite clearly that my hands are nowhere near each other. That's fine. I'm just walking the hands towards each other and just making a few movements with the hands, just to pushing back almost into the hands to experience the stretch. So if I take this, you stay where you are. I'm going to just turn around so that you can see this from the front. I'm not going to mirror you, I'm just going to stay with the same arms. So you stay with the arms you have so you can see the shape. And you can see that my hands weren't that close together. And again, we're not going to do this for very long. So working with the rotator cuff muscles. There's one in particular, teres minor, that we're trying to work with from the very bottom of the shoulder blade. And the shoulder rotator cuff muscles really stabilize the shoulder joint. And maybe there's a little bit of movement, just very gentle. I know in Yin we try to be still, but quite like just, and that's why the stretchy strap is quite good, because it just gives me a little bit more flexibility with the arms, just pushing back gently into the head, back into that top arm, and a lovely feeling of stretch. So at no point should the head feel stuck in this position. You should feel that it could move quite easily. And we're really opening. So this is a really good one for the heart meridian as well. The heart meridian starts right in the armpit and comes up through the arm, the inside of the arm. But also good for our pericardial meridian, which comes right up through the center of the arm. But think about that opening through the top shoulder, all the way up through the center of the fleshy side of the arm. And then maybe think about the triple heater in the bottom arm. So coming from at the back of the hands to the elbow, through the upper arm to the shoulder. And then just moving the head in towards the top arm, just to create that stretch into the shoulder a little bit more. Just keeping an eye on the timer. So moving my head away, so you will actually be the other way because I'm not mirroring you. So you're moving your head into the top arm to get the feeling of stretch into the shoulder. It's last breath. To come out, it release the bottom arm the way you went in, and then release the top arm. Just take a moment to notice the sort of after effects, and then just push the palms to the edge. Release. Undo the legs just by a simple lean back, and just let the knees fall from side to side. So again, I'm going to come to the side to set this up. So right leg's going to cross over left, and that might be where you leave it. For some of you, you can kick this bottom heel in, but remember, another way of doing that is to bend the left leg, bend the right leg, slot the left foot underneath it, and step that right leg over the left. Then you might be able to bring that heel in closer to your hip to stack the knees, one on top of the other. Shoulders are relaxed, okay? Spine is long. So right leg should be on top this time, and we're going to use the left arm going up, okay? It doesn't matter if you do it the other way around. Just the way I like to do it. Bend the arm of the elbow, use the right hand to encourage the stretch into the shoulder, all the way down, okay? Right arm comes out to the side, bend to the elbow, again comes in. So you can see I've got quite a lot of space between the hands to give me a little bit of freedom, and I'm just sort of pushing back gently with the head, taking a little bit of time. So you stay there, I'm just going to maneuver so that you can see a little bit easier. Sitting on something is helpful if it's uncomfortable, and remember to release the legs if it's really uncomfortable for your knees. And just focus on the arms. So we've got about 1.5 minutes here. So do about 2 minutes with the arms. So think about the meridian line for the top arm, the pericardium, even the heart. So the pericardium comes up the side of the chest, up through the center of the arm. Sort of it comes up over the top of the pectoral muscle and the sort of onto the bicep, and then up through the center of the arm, through the center of the elbow, through the center of the forearm. Linger around that wrist area, really good for calming anxiety. And right into the palm, so you're probably pressing the fingers into the palm of the top hand. And then think about the bottom arm, more triple-heta, so coming from the ring finger, sort of the bottom hand, on the outside of the arm, up the outside of the upper arm to the shoulder, across the back of the shoulder, then start to tip the head a little bit away from the shoulder as you feel the stretch into the side of the neck, around the ear, and across to the eyebrow. So you can stretch a meridian just like you'd stretch a muscle. You think about the origin, you think about the start of it, and then you think about the end of it, and you see if you can take the end a little bit further away from the start, even if it's one point moving away from another point. As you breathe, think about the palms, the lagom point in the center of the palms. So an attribute of imbalance, fire element is the ability to communicate well. So articulation, voice, the tongue is the sense. So being able to communicate clearly and well. So breathe in, being articulate, being able to communicate well. And let go of maybe talking too quickly, or maybe conversations that haven't worked out. And just take the last breath or so here. When you're tingling in the arms and the hands, then release the pose. Good. And then gently let go of the bottom arm. Release. Take the top arm up and out of it the way it went in. And release the shoulders. Just take a moment to notice the sort of echo, the rebound, the after effect. Maybe push the palms away. To come out of it with the legs, just leaning back to untangle the legs and letting the knees fall from side to side. And maybe just extend the legs out and just notice the legs. So I'm going to take a wide leg forward fold before we come down onto the ground. So I'm just going to reset my timer. So again, sitting on something, maybe bring in the bolster in to fold onto. I'm going to bring a cushion in to sit on. I like having cushions. I don't normally have cushions in my yin classes, but actually working from home means we have these different things that we can use. So if you don't have a bolster here, you don't need to have anything here at all. You do this in a regular class pose that we do often. So you could bring in a couple of pillows and use those. Pillows are actually really good. So we'll do this, how are we doing for time? So we'll do this for a good 3 minutes. And with the legs, you can experiment a little bit with flexing at the feet, pushing the heels away, which is quite nice. There's a link muscle called the soleus muscle, which is a calf muscle, deep calf muscle. So by pushing the heels away, you're really going to be stretching into that. But you might want to take half the pose with the heels flex, and then the rest where you point the toes, so you'll be contracting that muscle. So just think about those two variations. And maybe you need to actually, if you've got a bolster, it can be quite nice just to rest the head on the bolster. Or, depending on how squishy your bolster is, you can actually fold it and bring it in and support on it. If you get quite deeply into the pose, you might be all the way down. And again, remember we've got these points for the end of the triple heater. It can be quite nice to hold. Or you might prefer to think about the Lao gum point in the palm. So holding the thumb into the palm of one of the hands, and you do half and half. You do a sort of a couple of minutes with one palm being held, and then you switch palms. So forward fold is always cultivating calmness and quietness. It's a really good way of moving inwards, quietening the mind down, seeking out peacefulness. We're obviously working into the legs, into the hamstrings of the legs. So I forgot to mention, if the hamstrings are extremely tight, you could roll up a blanket and place blankets underneath the knees. I've got a few people that practice with me that would struggle with this. So taking something under the knees is a good way to just break that tension. We're trying to get into the inner thighs again. So switch palms. If you're holding one of the palms, make sure the forward fold isn't too much for your back. So it's not too intense for your lower back. This is a really good one for the bladder meridian, which runs down the back, which is always working with your parasympathetic nervous system response, calming and quietening the mind. So seek out that stillness. Go inwards. Let go of any hardness, any tension that still remains, any scattered thoughts. And just find that inner stillness and that inner quiet and calm. Making sure this pose is a doable shape for your body and that it's not too intense. Follow the breath in and follow the breath back out. So just the last couple of breaths here. Inviting a quiet mind. Very gently walking the hands back to the body, bringing the hands behind you, leaning back, just opening through the front of the body, and then release. Removing any props that you might have from underneath the legs, and just draw the legs in so you can let the knees fall. from side to side. So we're going to come down and finish on a twist and then move into Shavasana after that. So this twist can be as strong or as easy as you want it to be. So I'm going to show you with a bolster. So lying down, I just need to bring my timer in so I can see. So on your back, bringing the knees in, have a little gentle rock from side to side. So there's a few variations of this. So you can extend the right leg, bring your bolster in for support, let that left foot settle on the right thigh, and then just draw the leg across. And you can let that leg rest on the support. So that's a really nice sort of supported twist. Something a little bit stronger. Cross the left leg over the right. Again, you can let the knees fall onto the support, cushions, blocks, or you can actually tuck that left foot underneath the right calf. Move the hips and the feet a little bit to the left, and then let the knees fall either onto the support or maybe onto something a little bit lower like a cushion for a slightly stronger twist. So this is obviously really working with the spine. Okay, and just let the arms come out to the side. So you could take the arms quite wide to the side. You can't really see my arms that clearly, and you could work on the arms. And I quite like thinking about pericardium in one arm and triple-hita in the other. So I'm going to move my head away from the direction of the knees. Start my timer. So moving the head towards the left, my legs up onto the right. So I'm feeling the stretch through the outside of this left leg, right into the buttock, and the glutes come in to form this sort of IT band, which is getting a nice stretch. And because I'm taking the head towards the left hand, I'm going to do triple-hita on the right arm. So I'm going to turn my right palm down. So I'm getting that stretch in the neck of the right arm. I'm going to take my left palm face up. The left palm face up, right palm face down. And I'm just feeling that stretch through the meridian line of the triple-hita from the right ring finger, back of the arm, back of the shoulder, up the neck, around the ear to the eyebrow. And then in my left arm from the chest, sort of up and over onto the sort of bicep area, and then down through the center of the arm, to the center of the elbow, center of the forearm, and into the palm. And it's a lovely twist. So much going on in this twist because we're working with the meridians in the arms as well as working with the spine. Working with the spine like this is always really good for your nervous system, bringing in a sense of inner calm. Good. So just breathing in that calm and tranquility and letting go of any remaining tension that you might experience, any struggle, any overexcitement. So the fire element gives us the emotion of joy as being the main emotion. But too much joy leads to excitability. So we want to try to work on a sense of balance at all times. If you get any pins and needles in the fingers, in the arms, and just bring the arms in. Maybe release the twist a little bit more with the legs. Let me check my timer. Okay, so it'll be 3 minutes. I'll just do another couple of breaths. So a twist is always going to bring a sense of balance into the body, a sense of harmony. Last 2 breaths here. And then very gently undoing the legs, untangling the legs, centering the hips. Bring the arms in. Just let the knees fall in and touch. Just rest the arms. Just notice in the middle the rebound, the after effects. So if you're using a support, bring it over to the other side so that you've got it ready. Maybe shifting the hips a little bit to the right. Either you could just let the knees fall. You could straighten that left leg, right foot comes to the left thigh, and you could draw it across to your bolster or to your support. Or a little bit stronger, you cross the right leg over the left, maybe even tucking the toes onto the calf, twisted roots we call this. Move the hips a little bit to the right and the feet, and then let the knees fall to the left. Maybe bringing something in for support. So you don't want too much sensation into your back. I'm just going to think about my arms a little bit. Let me just check my timer. Right. So thinking about my arms, my head wants to move away from your legs. Yours might want to do something different. So because I'm moving the head towards the right, I'm going to come on to triple hita on this left arm. So I'm going to bring the palm down so I can work on the back of the arm. And then the other arm, I'm going to turn the palm up so I can work on pericardium. So pericardium running all the way down the center of this arm, through the center of the bicep, the center of the elbow, center of the forearm, center of the wrist crease, center of the palm, through that middle finger. Linger in the palm, place for tranquility and calm. If the head is gently turned away, think about triple hita in the left arm, running from that ring finger through the back of the wrist. Come to that point which is 3 finger widths up from the wrist in the back of the arm. Really good for working on preventing these pernicious influences from entering the body, the viruses, the toxins, coming up through the back of the arm, to the elbow, the outside of the elbow, the back of the upper arm, to the shoulder, and then the back of the shoulder, so just over the back of the shoulder, and then along the side of the neck, to where the jaw meets the ear, around the ear, close to the ear, to where the ear meets the head, and from there to the eyebrow. And just breathe in and out slowly as you feel that delightful stretch into the arms, but also what's happening with the spine. So you might have the hips perpendicular to the shoulders. Try to have the shoulders down, so adjust the legs accordingly, and really activating the muscles of the spine. But more importantly for us, working with meridians, thinking about the U points along the bladder meridian, which have an association with all of our organs. So rebalancing, tonifying, harmonizing, drawing energy in, and then when we release the twist, we release that energy out into the whole body, working on our nervous system. Kids, can't see my timer. Just a couple more breaths. Just let the corners of the mouth lift up, so you're breathing in that feeling of joy and harmony into the body, letting go of any overexcitement, any sort of talking too much, nervousness, and breathe in tranquility and calm, joy, harmony, peace. Okay, take this as the last breath. Undo the legs if they're in twisted roots. Breathing in, slowly come out. Center the hips, just bring the arms in. Let the knees touch for a moment, just notice the rebound. Let the whole body settle. Feel that energy being distributed. And then making sure you're nice and warm for Shavasana. So Shavasana, you might decide to stay with the legs bent, feet to standing, knees touching. You might decide to bring in something for your legs. If you have a bolster, bringing that underneath the knees. Maybe bringing in a blanket for your head, which you could fold neatly. Bring it in so you have a little raise for your head. So you don't need that. And just making sure, if you have a hair bubble, maybe removing it so that it's really easy for the back of your neck, bringing the support right the way down to the shoulders. Blankets over, if you're chilly, bringing something in. And just resting the arms and spend a little bit of time getting everything nicely centered. So that you've got each leg resting on the same point, the heels resting on the same point, and the arms resting on the same point on each wrist and knuckles, and the shoulders again resting on the same point. So I spend a little bit of time moving, rocking the head, adjusting, being really fussy. And when you find a place where you feel completely balanced and centered, you stay still. So I'm going to come on up to work through a Shavasana, but you stay lying down. And remember that at the end of the practice, you can stay for longer than we're staying. So we're staying just for about 5 minutes. So once you feel that you are completely balanced and centered in your body, then this will allow the mind to quieten down. When the body is centered, even the brain can rest back within the skull. So we're putting the body into a neutral position. Even making sure that the tongue is centered in the mouth. The eyes are dropping back, centered in the eye sockets. Become aware of the breath, of the movement of air in the body. So the breath moving in and the breath moving back out. Maybe even deepening this awareness a little bit more. So as if you're listening to the sound of your breath from deep inside the back of your head. Allow the skin on the bridge of your nose, the space between your eyebrows, to broaden and to soften. And once you feel completely centered in your body, just become aware of that outer edge of the body, that peripheral line. And see if you can let that line, that sort of edge of the body, soften a little bit, as if it's blurring with the space around you. So that you actually can't describe the outer edge of your body anymore. You can't describe the outside of your arms or your hands. That your body has merged into the space around you, into the floor. So you are just one big field of relaxation with no edges, no corners, no shapes. And just breathe in and out, sending that calming, soothing energy through the body. Allow your eyes, your ears, your nose to soften. Allow your brain, as if it's shrinking, to release and rest back. Feel as if your organs are letting go. Keeping your eyes closed and as still as possible behind the eyelids, resting back heavily in the sockets. And on inhalation, just receive the breath without effort. Feel the brain receding and releasing inside the skull. And on exhalation, allow the breath to be released smoothly and slowly from the body. Allowing the mass of your body to release back towards the ground. And just for these last few moments, Stay as still and as present as you can. Just allowing your heels, the backs of your legs, your calves, your hips, your buttocks, your middle, lower, upper back, your shoulders, your arms, your head, to rest back towards the ground underneath you. Giving in to gravity, giving in to tiredness, and feeling that connection to the ground underneath you. Just for the end of Shavasana, just bring your focus to the center of your palms, that Laogon point. And feel the warmth of that area with the fingers softly curled in. And breathe in that calm and tranquility and peacefulness into that point in the palm. And allow that to spread all the way through the arms to the heart. Just take the last few breaths, just focusing on that calm and tranquility, peacefulness over the whole body, over the whole body. And then very gently, just bringing the focus back into the room. Remembering you can choose to stay, you could just turn this off and stay for a little bit longer. If not, just wriggling, stretching, yawning. Bring in maybe the knees into the belly, having a little rock, and coming to rest on your side. Just taking a moment, resting on your side, using your hand and leg to help push you up to come to seated, and just spend a moment sitting. Bring the palms together, just offer a little bit of gratitude for this time that we've had together to spend practicing. Bringing the third eye towards the fingertips. Om Shanti. Namaste. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the practice.